Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix, with the Astro Weather. Looks like we have all systems go. We got audio, we got video, we got visuals, and we are alive on arrival. Let's see, who do we have here? We got DJ MZ and KZ Gypsy Muse. They checked in. You guys are like you're like Amazon, not Amazon, Southwest. You've got the early check-in. Bo Kabuki Theater and DJ Pebblestone, they all checked in last night. Seegert at 3:53 in the morning. What a frosty morning it is here in the 100-acre wood, very substrata by Biosphere. Love Biosphere. What's his name? Gerd something. I was a big Biosphere fan. Kelly B's here and Deborah Wheeler. What's happening, Deborah? Scott Jerzik, Jackie Delario, Jackie, you're part of a Jerzik sandwich with Christina coming right in there. Nora Rashid, the queen of speed. My man Tom is in the house. Gucci the Goats. What's going on, Jake? From sunny Mississippi. Ryan is here. Hello, Ryan. Sue Leonard, the Knight of Cups. We are at it. Another day to do something great. Let's throw that up there. That's a that's a post-worthy comment. Brandy Herrera, Barbara Boots should be watching for a minute and then off on the errands. Janice Phillips, our Oklahoma Wildcat in the house. Mary Grether. Yes, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching this material. Hit that like button. Big Dave Sullivan in the house. Orlando. Coffee is essential to life. I just crushed my cup. Kanya Curtis checking in from Paradise, also known as Greece. Good to see you, Kanya. Hello, Sacred Starseed Ascendant Ninth Sphere Activation Light Spreaders. That's us. There she is, the big cat lady, Julie Sunshine, 333. Moira NYC. Looks like rain is on the way. Uh-oh, you're going to have all those migrants out in the street. They're not going to like that. Be scurrying around like wet rats. Soul Traveler is here. So is Glennis Bank. So is Misbehaving too. Have you seen the movie The Apprentice about DJT and Roy Cohn? I have not, but I know of it. PMSO, hey Janine, if you weren't here yesterday, just wanted to thank you for the coffees. And you can buy me a cup of coffee if you like. We do not have the super chat function here since I have been demonetized proudly since the 2010s. And you can buy me a cup of coffee. Rainbows and Butterflies. There she is, the lovely and talented one. Saving Austin one tooth at a time. Let's throw this up here. I was listening to an astrologer explain how so many astrologers got the election prediction wrong. You know how I can tell you in two sentences how they got it wrong. One is personal bias. First and foremost, personal bias. Two, political underpinnings that are connected to feminized New Age beliefs. That's it. And they were fucking around with other systems. Stick with Placidus, you'll be just fine. Healing Heart Rosie. When am I going to run a Black Friday promotion? That's a good question. Jill Wong is here. Yes, you can sign up, become a member of Locals. That's right. Thank you, Ryan. Atlantis Rising. Zarelith, Immortal. Harriet Bowie, hey, Annabelle Lee, Deborah R, Maria Ange, AR, are we getting nuked today? Hopefully not. Laura E, Neil Smith, there's our guy, Thor at the door. Maya Rose. Think of Feliz, they finally turned off the harp after 3 weeks of devastating 11 dead, 100 million in damage. Tourist season has been devastated. Heavy rains down in Panama. We're glad you're okay, Lynn. Jared MC from Scottsdale. What's happening? Jamie, Speaking of Panama in the house today. Dova Haza, thank you as well for the coffees, Dova. Appreciate those. Terry Marine is here. Terry been around for a while. Donna Eve, hi back at you, Donna. Yes, you can buy me a cup of coffee right there. Thank you, Ryan. You know, I could put let me ask you guys a question before I jump into the weather. I could put a Q code up in this corner for coffee, and you could just scan it. How do you feel about a Q code being there, and how do you feel about Q codes in general? Let me say hi to Lynette. Sigurd, I think you got this right. That's because most astrologers are cunts. Liddy Lou said yes, Robert. That's it. That's easy. That's easy to figure out. Let me go to the comments. I want to know what you feel about a Q code up there. Claire's in the house. Hi, Claire. Let's see. Or Q codes in general. What the fuck's a Q code? Yeah, you can do custom QRs that look nicer. I like that. I like that idea. So with your logo in the middle. So we can make it appealing for people to use a Q code. Not a fan of Q codes. I don't like them. That's really funny because I don't like Q codes either, which is why I have not put a Q code up here so you can go to the coffee and just Q code it. I loathe Q codes, but I have no problem with you using one. Oh, okay. There we go. Nope, never use them. Make it easy. Okay. Distracting. I work with printers and we can make QR code. Asked you to do a Q code year and a half ago. I know. Well, I brought that. This is one of the reasons why I'm bringing it up. That's Q codes only effeminized in New Age. Yeah, they're a thing. Try existing without a barcode. I don't generally trust Q codes. Never use one. See, this is one of the reasons why. Let me just bring this up because Wit did bring this up about a year ago. Year and a half now. I'm not really keeping track, but my general feeling about Q codes is I don't really like them. Okay, I don't really like them. Like if I go to a restaurant and there's a little Q code on the table and I'm supposed to put my phone up to read the menu, I kind of refuse to do it because it's like, give me the fucking menu. Just let me look at the menu, right? So I'm kind of an analog guy. And the reason I asked you people the question is because I have a feeling that many of you are kind of like me in that regard. And I'm just wondering how much it would be used if I use the Q code. And there's also kind of this weird ethics thing around it. So anyway, just thought I'd ask. They kind of bother me, but I understand a lot of watching YouTube or TV makes it easier. You say Q? I did. Value for value, send donations to your P.O. box. I felt extremely ostracized when they brought it up for menus. Not everyone is tech savvy for any age. Julie Metcalf, limit blue light exposure. It's Aquarian Moonsprout. Same, Robert. I'll take the menu. Amy Gill, yeah, fuck that. Don't know what they really are, how they were. See, that's the other thing. It's like, yeah, Q code is fine. You can't stop the Aquarian age. Never used one. Okay. But could bring in more coffees on. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this as an experiment. I'm going to try to do a Q code because some people will use the Q code. I'm not a Q coder, but I'm going to try it, and I'll try to make one that looks reasonably good. See what happens. We'll give it Pluto's in Aquarius. Pluto's in Aquarius. I'm not. They're not asking us to put our digital scan inside the program. So we'll give it a shot here, see what happens. And we'll do a trial run. I'm going to do a trial run. That's what I'm going to do. A trial run. And if I do a trial run, then I'll get data. I'll get data from the trial run. This is how these things work. Okay, let's get into the weather. It's a brave new world. It's a brave new world. All right. I'm trying to think of the guy from Biosphere, Geyer. His name is Geyer. Is it Geyer Jensen? I think that's his name, Biosphere. Now you got me thinking about this. Geyer Jensen. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Okay, now I'm talking code to Sigurd. Here's one for you. Tetsu Inoue. Tetsu Inoue. There you go. All right. Let's get into the show. Shall we? Here it is. All right. So as we march towards World War III, we have that Mars-Pluto opposition. And I'd be more concerned about the retrograde, honestly. There's this whole kind of myth story about the Antichrist. And supposedly we get to 11:59:59 and the world is at a point of imminent destruction. And the Antichrist steps in at the last second and waves his hand or does something and walks us back from the edge of nuclear extinction. And in that moment, the Antichrist gets a high degree of credibility. A high degree of credibility. So is that where we're headed? Will somebody step in and play the role of the broker of peace, as it were? Now, I'm not saying that Trump is the Antichrist, although some people have figured him as the Antichrist, particularly Donnie Darko over on Twitter, or Donnie Darkened. One of the things that the Antichrist has as part of the profile, again, I'm not saying that Trump is the Antichrist. I'm just making a notation here, is that the Antichrist has a wound to the head. Now, we've already looked at that with Prince William and his wound to the head. And now Trump, who was shot in Pennsylvania, theoretically, the ear is part of the head, right? So now all of a sudden, the poly markets on Trump as the Antichrist are going up. Anyway, we're actually looking at this potential for destruction. And it's this Mars retrograde that will come back into Pluto. By the way, welcome to the age of Aquarius. There we are, Pluto at 001. And it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. Pluto at 001. And there are astrologers who will say, well, it affects, generations, long-term cycles, which is true, right? But those long-term cycles affect us personally. So Pluto is not indistinct from the individual. It may be indistinct from the individual's chart if you don't have certain aspects are going to be triggered by Pluto, but there is a trickle down effect, and we just came out of 15 years of Pluto in Capricorn, and I had a post over on Twitter where I asked people, well, what happened and what did you learn? And man, people have gone through a ton of shit with Pluto in Capricorn. I mean, a ton of shit. And they have lived to tell the tale. Pluto in Aquarius, it won't be as difficult as Pluto in Capricorn. When I saw Pluto in Capricorn coming, I was like, oh shit, here we go. We're gonna have to endure this, because this is what happens with Capricorn, and it happens with Pluto. It's an extended Pluto run through Capricorn, and it was all about endurance and kind of getting through it, right? And if you had planets that were being hammered by it, which, man, I did. A lot of you did. I went through a period where Pluto was squaring my Mercury and my Moon, and squaring my Venus at the, right around the 20th degree of Capricorn. I had my second Saturn return coming in and conjuncting with Pluto. I mean, Pluto was, when it went into Capricorn, first thing it did is it opposed my natal Mars in the 8th house at 0 Cancer. And boy, did that get the party started. But here we are, right? Here we are. And basically, and it was in my second house. So whenever you have Pluto going through your second house, you're going to basically have most everything taken from you in terms of like your security. It disassembles your relationship with the material world, and then you realize, like, well, you're not your possessions. And I went through all that. Second house is baseline. It's the root chakra, right? So when you have Pluto transiting through your second house, and I know some of you do, like, that's what happens. You get in touch with your most potent fears, which ultimately is the fear of death, right? So in Capricorn, everything is just heavier because we're dealing with time. We're dealing with these governmental experiences. We're dealing with corporations, heavy corporocratic assemblage of power, right? And now with Pluto and Aquarius, we're going to watch that become disassembled. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the new systems that are going to be in place are going to be more humane or better. They could be less humane in some ways, because Aquarius promises to bring new innovations of technology and automation, and there can be a real feeling at times of dehumanization in Pluto and Aquarius. On the other hand, Pluto and Aquarius can force people to work together and form bonds, tribal bonds and groups, which can be good. Right. So it's going to be a really, really interesting time, and nothing will be as it seems. It's just, that's the way it is. Nothing will be as it seems, because if a certain individual, let's say it's Elon Musk, says, well, I want to make sure we get Neuralink in everybody's brain, I'm not sure it's going to really go down that way. Right. It's just like, a lot of plans go awry with Pluto and Aquarius. And because we're also having a discussion about Uranus, there's chaos involved, and then there's mistakes. And you'll see more of the evolutionary process of Pluto and Aquarius not come from long-range planning, which a lot of people are looking at and saying, well, we're going to be stuck in a technocratic control grid where they'll be able to read our thoughts and do pre-crime and all these other things, right? I think the biggest changes are going to occur through chaos and mistakes. And people will stumble upon things like, oh, well, look at this. We weren't planning on this, but look at this. And not all of that will be bad, and not all of it will be good. Right? That's just the nature of Aquarius. We talked about this last week on Friday's show. It's part of developing the witness self, because Aquarius is detached. And a lot of people are very impassioned right now, and I think with good reason, because we've been primed to be impassioned. But the key with Pluto and Aquarius is to be able to step back. And it reminds me of this story that used to be told with, I think it's Suffolk. I think it's a Suffolk story. And it kind of goes like this. It goes on and on and on and on. There are these two guys that are talking, and one guy will say something, and the other guy will say, "Oh my God, that's terrible," right? And then he'll say, "Maybe yes, maybe no. Only Allah knows for sure." And then the thing that was terrible winds up becoming good. And then the good thing that the guy talks about, the other guy says, "Oh, what a blessing. What a blessing. This is such a wonderful thing." And the guy says, "Maybe yes, maybe no. Only Allah knows for sure." And the outcome of that good thing is actually a bad thing, right? And this goes on and on and on and on. It's like it's a series of stories where everything gets kind of turned on its head. And the person that ascribes a particular value to a part of the story, they're reminded that the outcome of the thing that was good winds up being not so good, and the outcome of the thing that was not so good winds up being good. And to me, this is going to be the baseline and the foundation of Pluto and Aquarius. And there will be things that will happen, and people will say, "Huzzah! Let's stand up and give a round of applause for this." But then there will be an event that's related to that will be not so good. And people go, "Oh shit, we thought this was going to be good, but it's not good." And so I'm not saying that you need to just always look for the negative, because the negative will wind up being positive. That's not really what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we're going to witness a lot of positive and negative, right? Like when you get into Aquarius, you're getting into things like electrical charges, and then with batteries, you have alternate current and direct current, right? You have on a battery, you've got a positive pole and you've got a negative pole. Again, this is all very Aquarian. And the idea here is to not really get attached to either. And that's going to be the key to navigating the next 19 years, is not getting attached to any of these situations. And yet at the same time, we're here and we do have attachments to people that we love and in certain parts of our life that we've cultivated. So that's the other side of the coin. The other side of the coin with Aquarius is Leo. And Leo is very passionate, right? Leo gets worked up, right? Leo is, it's in on the game. And Leo has ego identification. And Aquarius is not ego identification. Aquarius is the opposite of ego identification. It's like it's not all about you, right? So that's part of this polarity. And this is the fascinating part of Pluto and Aquarius. There's this paradox where you who are listening to this and watching this right now, you are the center of the universe, because everything starts and ends with you. But you're not. You're just another center of the universe like everybody else. So this is the dynamic. And we're in that place where we realize that, yeah, everything starts and ends with us, but we're not the only one. And that's the Aquarius Leo polarity, right? So we have the moon in Leo today coming in, conjuncting with Mars, and there's a lot of passion out there. A lot of passion. Then we have this grand trine with the Sun and Neptune, and again, Mars is there by degree, Moon is there by degree, Sun's sextile Pluto, right? And that sextile is going to get stronger. I used this metaphor yesterday with sailing. There's wind on the wings. Just go with it, man. Just go with it. I would say this is the time where it's better to generate positive feelings, and feeling as if, at least in your life, right, to the best of your ability. And I know many of you have been traumatized by 15 years of Pluto in Capricorn, but this is really the dawn of a new day, which is a very Aquarian saying, by the way. Right? When we think of the dawn of a new day, we think of the rising. Really, it's the rising of Venus, especially during the summertime, when Venus and Sirius literally rise before the sun, and of course Venus connected to Lucifer, right? So it's the dawn of a new day, the dawn of a new age, right? Pluto in Aquarius is really, in a lot of ways, the dawn of a new age. Although through Pluto, right, any kind of false beliefs will be tested, totally tested. And only the ones that are holistically connected are going to be valid and survive. If we're coming from an ideological sort of version of the new age, right, it's not going to work. If it's more organic and is a byproduct of, it's kind of an interesting metaphor. Nanotechnology is self-assembling, right? If it comes about that we as individuals, not by any sort of influence of nanotechnology inside of us, but we as individuals become self-assembling, that's organic. And what I mean by that is that we're drawn to certain groups or certain people, either through some sort of magnetic attraction, which is very Plutonian, or by some kind of calamity or catastrophe, which is also, by the way, very Plutonian. So it's very interesting. This is a very interesting cycle. It's a revolutionary cycle. If you go back to the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, we're kicking off the American Revolution. And here we go. We've got Trump and his cabinet and the Trump dance, which is, it's the new craze. I mean, they're doing it in the NFL. Think about that. I don't think reality is always staged. I think sometimes there's just a natural evolutionary response to reality. And we've been through, let's just go back to 2000. We have been through almost 25 years of repression, maybe slightly minus 4 years with Trump. We're going to start with Bush. 25 years worth of repression, 25 years worth of foreign wars, right? 25 years worth of, especially with Obama, right? The war on the so-called privileged, right? 25 years of all these things, which have been, you have to separate Bush out a little bit from Obama because they're connected, but they're not connected, right? Bush is clearly neoconservative. Obama is more neoliberal, but they share things in common, i.e., expansion of foreign wars and toadying up to corporations. Both the same, right? The Bush administration was marked by this weird connection with mega churches and trying to promote Bush as a religious figure. The Obama era is propped up by critical race theory and division amongst the races. And it's all heavy, right? It's all heavy. And people are tired of it. They're tired of it. So this is the revolutionary component, right? I was on Twitter, and Clay Travis was talking about how the ratings in the NBA are down by 28%. And he thinks it's because people don't like LeBron and they don't like Steve Kerr and they don't like Greg Popovich. Well, personally, I like watching the Warriors, and I don't care if Steve Kerr bugs me when he's political, but when he's coaching, I really don't give a shit. As long as he's a good coach. Like Steph Curry, I really don't care if he supported Kamala Harris, right? He's a good player, and like I enjoy watching Steph Curry play. What bugs me is when I watch these NBA games, which I'm forced to watch commercials unless the game is recorded, and I go back after the fact and I zoom through the commercials. And that's fine if the Warriors are playing on the East Coast. I can do that, but I really can't do that on the West Coast. But what bugs me is I have to sit there and watch these commercials, and I'm just keeping it 100 here. In the commercials, they feature either women in a big way, so-called black males in a big way, and interracial couples. That's it. That is the demographic that they are promoting during these games. I'm like, well, where is this other demographic in these commercials? And it's like these people think it's just, the players or the politics. It goes beyond that, right? It's like it's outside the lines of the court. It's the social programming, and there's social programming in all the sports, but the commercials are the worst form of it. So we're in this revolutionary cycle, 28% down. People are saying no to this, right? They're saying no, 28% down. And there's going to be more. There's going to be more of this revolutionary energy. And at the end of the day, right, people are going to try to find out like who the King George of our time is, since we're in that cycle. And I can tell you it's not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not King George. But there is a King George-ish entity that's out there. And that will be so we're just looking at this, right? This is a snapshot. If we were to, this is perfect. We're only off by 1 minute. This would be the template for the next 19 years. Right here. This would be the template. Maybe we could get, maybe the moon would be slightly off since it's just moved into Leo. But I think this would be the template for the next 19 years. Right here. This is the snapshot. And the Grand Trine is tremendous. Right. 28 degrees Scorpio, 27 Neptune. There's this spiritual component. But then over here, we have the fire, we have the passion, and we're trying to figure out our individuality in the midst of this more collective kind of cosmic identifier, for lack of a better term. Mercury is at 20 Sagittarius. We have Pallas at 25. So again, what are we doing? We are trying to articulate the truth, and sometimes it is distorted with the square with Neptune, and as Mercury here is starting to separate from Saturn, sometimes it can be hard to articulate. There is a price to pay for the truth, right? It's kind of like, okay, where are you going with this? Are you going to soft sell the truth, which would be the Mercury Neptune square, and lie to yourself? Or are you going to have to face the consequences for telling the truth, which is really the Mercury Saturn square. It's like, okay, well, I have to sit before those in judgment when I tell this truth, whether it's somebody that you're connected to or related to, or let's say out there in the big wide world, right? Mercury Saturn square is like, okay, well, there's a price to pay for your speech. There's a price to pay for it. And it could be actually trying to limit free speech. I would not be at all. I mean, I was looking at this tweet by Tom Cotton yesterday, which is completely disgusting. But this is the price to pay for free speech. And so if we're going to have free speech, which is really what Mercury and Sagittarius is about, even though it's in its detriment, it's about free speech. And the Mercury Saturn square is like, okay, if we want this, we have to work for it. And we can't get lazy. That's the Mercury Neptune square. Oh, we'll get lazy. We'll just, we'll shut up. This will clear up. It's just a bump in the road, right? It'll clear up. Can't do it. And what's interesting here is also the trine with Chiron in Aries. And I'm going to get into some Chiron and Aries stuff and men today over on 15 Minutes of Flame. Links are in the show description. So to me, this is kind of like you ever see a war movie where I think it's in The Patriot. I've seen it in a couple of other of these war movies where somebody is about to go into battle and they look at their CO and they say, I'm afraid when I get out there, I won't have any courage. And the CO will say, well, you know what? None of us will know if we have any courage or not until we get out there. Basically, what he's saying is that once you get into the scrum, right? Once you get into the actual conflict, this is where the faculty of courage is developed. It's not like you sit down and you're in your foxhole or whatever, and you're channeling your inner Mel Gibson from The Patriot. Some people can do that, I suppose, but it's usually when things start to happen, right? And all of a sudden you find yourself in a position where it's like, okay, I got to do this. I'm going. And that's this Mercury trine with Chiron. It's the risk, right? Chiron's always the risk. It's about being vulnerable. But it's one of these risks where if you speak truth to power, you will find the ability to stand in the face of hardship and stand in the face of criticism. But you'll find something there. And not only that, but you will also be an inspiration to others, and others will find their voice as well. Remember, this is a template. This is a template for the time to come. This chart right here. And this is what we're looking at. Even the Sun-Uranus opposition, big part of this, right? Big part, fixed sign. How do we deal with change? Because Uranus here, the ruler of Aquarius, it's like, oh, well, we're going to have to deal with change. And some of these changes are going, I talked about the Q code today. It's like, it's an Aquarian thing. How do we deal with change? Right? How do we navigate it? How do we negotiate it? Is it a fixed subject? Is it thou shalt not? I'm not going to use a Q code in a fucking restaurant. I'm not going to go there. However, there are people that will watch this show and they will access a Q code. Just like there are people, if I'm a restaurant, I can say, here's the paper menu, here's the Q code. You can have either. Right? How do we navigate and negotiate change? Right? That's going to be a big, big ticket item over the next 19 years. It's right there. But luckily, we have this grand trine as a bit of a template. Mystic rectangle. We've got some challenges here. We also have some tremendous opportunity. So there's my inspirational speech for Pluto and Aquarius. Okay, let's get into our star of the day. Some of you already know who it is. Let me get to the banner. We'll throw the banner up there for our guy, Chris. And our True Hemp Science star of the day, none other than Potato Joe Biden. Before I get into his chart, let's just do a quick shout out to our buddy Chris over at THS. You spend $100 or more, and guess what? Type in 15MINS and you will get the goodie bag, right? And it's a version of what I have in my hand. You get some of the gummies, which, by the way, are worth the price of admission. And I'm not sure what Chris will send you in terms of vials, but you'll get some samples to try as well. It's like you get a little order inside the order. 15MINS, that is your code to get it. There's always a 30-day money-back guarantee, and $150 more get you free shipping. So you'll save a little bit on your order. And every little bit helps, doesn't it? All right, let's talk about Joe Biden. I was looking at his chart. There's some interesting things going on transit-wise with whomever or whatever Biden is, right? He's got that Jupiter at 25 degrees Cancer. And do you know what that's doing in Donald Trump's chart? It's conjuncting his Saturn. And there are people who have said that Biden was helping Trump. With that conjunction, I could see that. I could totally see it. The other thing that's interesting about some of these transits is Mars. Now, Mars will station 1 degree off of his Pluto. And that happens in December. And I'm wondering if Biden has some sort of a crisis, right? Like this would be a time where Harris gets to play president for 2 weeks or whatever, or 4 weeks, right? I think it's the first week in December. Is it December 12th when Mars stations and then goes retrograde? When Mars moves back and moves forward again in Leo and it hits Biden's Pluto, I think that could be the end of Joe Biden. So we're talking first part of 2025, right? If Mars stationed exactly on his Pluto, he'd be done. He would be done. That's my take, right? But it's not. When it goes back, right, what is it going to do? It's going to conjunct Pluto and it's going to square his natal Mars, right? And we've seen Pluto, well, we haven't, but he's seen many Mars transits across his Pluto. But this one's different. This one's different because it does go retrograde. It goes back into Cancer and it comes back again. So we've got this Jupiter conjunct Trump Saturn, this Mars action on his Pluto. I would not be surprised if Harris plays president for a day. By the way, who is fucking president of the country right now? Like Harris is in Hawaii, sipping on Mai Tais and smoking Kona Gold. And Biden is supposedly somewhere in the Amazon. Like, who's fucking running the show? Who's sending arms to Ukraine? Who's authorizing $250 million fucking dollars to go to Ukraine? Biden's chart is interesting. He's a total 12th house guy. He's always been sort of a backroom dealer. He's the consummate Washington insider with Sun, Mercury conjunction, 12th house, Mars and Scorpio, right? Like he's always angling to find a deal. And he has that unctuous Venus at 28 degrees in a wide conjunction with ascendant in Sagittarius. He's kind of like Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton has the same thing. Hillary Clinton, Sag rising, right? Sun in the 12th house. The other thing that's interesting about Biden is that he has no planet. Well, he has one planet below the horizon, and it's the moon, and it's in Taurus. And we know that the moon in Taurus likes nice things, and he has it in the 5th house. So it's all about pleasure, right? Biden is a hedonist. Joe Biden is a hedonist. It's also interesting that he has Saturn in the 7th house in Gemini. Well, guess what sign Jill Biden is? She's a Gemini. So somewhere in here is Joe Biden's sun. So people think that, well, it's just a marriage of convenience, or no, I actually think that he's probably into her. And she's probably into him for whatever reasons, right? Now, here's where I think Biden's chart gets kind of fucked up. He's got this true node in Virgo. So that's his true north. And it's in the 9th house. So the true node there tends to be idealistic, right? It's connected to, like, if you really wanted to break it down, it would be a sort of a manifestation of a Kennedy Democrat with the true node in Virgo, 9th house, service, but service that's philosophical, like it's driven by some sort of ideal, right? Which is very 9th housey. But then Chiron comes in. He's got this conjunction with Chiron. And we just talked about Leo as being connected to the ego. And Joe Biden, for me, this becomes very manipulative. He's got this Chiron sun square in his chart. And he's really trying to work out this kind of vulnerability around the ego. It's kind of like he can't be selfless. Because Virgo's kind of selfless, but with Chiron there, especially in Leo and squaring the sun, and it's like he wants credit for things. He wants credit for the things that he's done. Hey, look at all the good things I've done. I want credit for those things. Right? And it's like, if anything, he has to be selfless. The other thing that's weird too is also like his relationship with kids. We have Pluto and Leo in the 8th house, right? It's kind of that, it's kind of weird, right? Like he's got Chiron there. Leo represents children. And what's Pluto doing? It's squaring the moon. So it's weirdly obsessive. And the whole hair thing, right? And the sniffing of the hair, it's like just weirdly obsessive. And he has this yod with Neptune and the moon. He's a really odd chart. I can see why he has been successful in Washington. He's just a total deal maker. But he can't just do the thing without feeling like he has to get something out of it, right? And that's this Chiron attached to the true node. Now he has Neptune in the 10th house, and you can kind of see it at work, right? Like you can kind of see how over the past 4 years, people saw him as being functional. Like that's very Neptunian. Like they're not even really seeing the real Biden. Like it's all an act. It's all a play. It's all an illusion, right? But Neptune in the 10th house, if we're looking at it again from an expression of work and his way in the world, it should be theoretically selfless. Like the most pure version of this is, well, I'm a public servant. And, I'm a union guy, or I'm a people guy. I'm a good old Democrat guy. And Neptune is my ideal, especially in Libra. But that's not how it worked out for the last 4 years. We got a full dose of Neptune, and we're looking at it going, what the fuck is wrong with this picture? Well, it's an illusion. It's a lie. Right? That's what's been happening here. I don't think Biden has a lot of time left. He's going to have Saturn in Aries opposing his Neptune, right? He's going to go through the Neptune opposition. He's going to have, and this is all starting next year when Mars comes back in conjunctions Pluto. This guy's on the clock. Once he's out of office, he's not going to be around for much longer. Plus, he's a liability, and whatever is running this program. And I'm not even talking about Jill. Just that's the liability. It's okay. He's got a very top-heavy, unusual chart, and I think a chart that's really prone to temptation. And Scorpio is all about power. And everything about him here is about hidden power, behind the scenes, the consummate deal maker. And Sag rising, quick story about Biden. Tucker Carlson, I think in one of his interviews with Mike Lee, they talk about Joe Biden as a senator. And as a senator, he was kind of the life of the party, right? He was larger than life. He always made people feel kind of welcome. He was cracking jokes, right? He had this vibe about him where he was very smooth. And the word that one would use would be avuncular. And that was one of the things that both he and Mike Lee noticed that was gone from this version of Biden. And that's the Sag rising, right? And Juno in his first house, which again speaks to, the youth. Like Juno's all about fertility and opportunity. So whether it's a new opportunity or new deal to be made or new hair to sniff, right? You've got Juno right there in the first house, and that gets his attention. Anyway, we're done with him for now, nearly, and we may be done with him for more than just now. So there you go. There's your True Hemp Science star of the day. One Joe Biden. All right, come on over to 15. Come join us. We'll be talking about the state of men, where they've been, how what's happened to them, and where they are now. We'll also take a little bit of a look at World War III, which may or may not be impending. Okay. Just thought I'd leave you with that little, I don't know, optimistic thought. All right. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to discern what's possible. Treat each other well. God bless. Kataria, you're the best. Mods, thank you. Don't forget to hit the like. Don't forget to hit subscribe. And get ready. Even though we're moving to Rumble, I'd love to hit 16K before we get on out of here. All right. Take care. Bye for now.